Unfortunately, we have no clues as to where Johannes Gutenberg was between 1444 and 1447, or what he did during this time. Had he moved from Strasbourg to another city? Had he already returned to Mainz? And what about his invention in general? Here we have another gap in Gutenberg's curriculum vitae that has led to wild speculations. In any case, a first proof of his return to Mainz is this document, according to which he probably lived in the city again at that time, or at least in the immediate vicinity. The document of this transaction is considered the first sure proof of Johannes Gutenberg's return to Mainz. Arnold Geldhus, a relative of his, was liable for the loan. Apparently, Gutenberg was again looking for funds in Mainz to further develop his invention. The entrepreneur Johannes Fust, around 1400 to 1466, came from a wealthy family and lent Johannes Gutenberg a sum of money of 800 gulden in 1449. 4 years later, he gave him another 800 gulden for the joint work of books. These were enormous sums. For comparison, a townhouse in Mainz could be bought for 500 gulden around 1450. As in Strasbourg, Johannes Gutenberg surrounded himself with a whole range of experts after his return to Mainz to complete his invention. Among them was Peter Schöffer from Gernsheim, around 1425 to around 1503. Schöffer had studies and previously worked in Paris as a scribe and calligrapher. He probably played a major role in the development, design, and production of the type. One of the few remaining buildings in Mainz with a direct connection to Gutenberg is the Wolfson Club in the Korbgasse in Mainz. The rebuilt late Gothic house with its characteristic stepped gable of the roof bordered the neighboring Schöfferhof, which unfortunately no longer exists today. Johannes Gutenberg's invention is based on a very simple but ingenious principle. The text is broken down into its smallest components, the letters and punctuation marks. These individual building blocks in the form of metal types can be reassembled again and again to form all kinds of texts. The most impressive thing about Gutenberg's achievement is that he invented and developed all the necessary parts for a complete system for the mechanical printing of texts. His inventions include the hand mold, the type case, the composing stick, the printing press, the ink, and the ink balls. Everything worked so well together that the process was wholly improved over the centuries. Such a letter of indulgence is also the oldest print from Gutenberg's workshop that can be dated indirectly, since the date of issue was handwritten on it on 22nd of October 1454. With the purchase of a letter of indulgence, in which the name of the buyer and the date of the purchase were entered, one obtained a remission of one's sins. The Church had a great need for these lucrative letters of the indulgence, and they were produced in large quantities of several thousand pieces. The Dominican Johann Tetzel aptly said, "When the money in the box sounds, the soul springs from the fire." The Gutenberg Bible is also called B42 because of its mainly 42 lines per page. It is the first large and most famous work from the workshop of Johannes Gutenberg. In 2 volumes, it contains the Latin translation of Hieronymus' Bible from the 4th century, the so-called Vulgate, on a total of 1,282 pages. On the original 180 printed copies, about 150 on paper and about 30 on parchment, 49 still exist today. The Gutenberg Bible is considered one of the most beautiful books in the world, if not the most beautiful. The end of Fust's and Gutenberg's collaboration is documented in the most famous source on Gutenberg and his invention, the Helmersberger notarial instrument of November 6, 1455. A notarial instrument is a document drawn up by a public notary, by means a notary commissioned by the emperor or the pope. It served as evidence of a concluded transaction in court. This special notarial instrument is named after the Mainz notary Ulrich Helmersberger, who set it up. The reason for the lawsuit was that after the end of their partnership, the two disagreed on the amount of the repayment of the loans to Fust and the possible interest. The court decided that Fuss should be repaid the first sum of 800 gulden borrowed with interest. Gutenberg, in turn, was allowed to offset his own costs for the second loan of also 800 gulden.